There's so many games out there that I've thought, what would be my first game review? Of course, it's one based off of a horror movie. I mean, of course.
So before I get into this review, I'm just gonna go over how my ratings work. So 10 to 7 is a positive review, with 10 being the gates of heaven, 9 being amazing or awesome, 8 being great, 7 being good, 6 to 4, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, 3 and under negative review, with 3 being bad, 2 being really bad, 1 being the gates of hell, and 0 being nowhere you want to go. So let's get this started.
Blair Witch. Blair Witch is a found footage horror film from 1999, and I could be mistaken. I didn't do all my research before this, but I believe it's like the first found footage horror film, or at least the one that really kind of started it all, as far as inspiration and following. The Blair Witch Project is a horror film that was made from a group of students where they go on a journey through the woods and try to find an urban witch, an urban legend witch. So, one thing about this movie that immediately probably goes to a lot of people's minds is how divided it is. You get really either one side or another with this film. People either trash this film all the way down to hell, or they think it's kind of a classic, which is the side that I'm on. I respect this movie heavily because although it is a found footage horror film, and there's not so much scare as on screen, the creativity aspect of it is sensational. What makes this film such a good horror film and even better found footage film is the fact that is the way that the movie was played out. All the actors and actresses in this film play themselves, and the production value of this film is on another level. I mean, they went to the levels of making missing persons posters for these characters when this movie came out, and I believe that this is like the first film that these people made. I think they made it when they were in college or some shit. The budget on this film was very small, and obviously the found footage aspect of it may have with as well as it works, I think was part of that production value, and I think that they made the very best of it. Again, they played themselves, and with the posters that they made along with the film just made it so, especially for its time, made it so wonderful, so perfect. So honestly, the found footage aspect of this film just had to be done. So what a lot of people dislike about this film is that it's known for just kind of being very boring. Boring. There's been a lot of trash talk about how it's just filming rocks, or how it doesn't make sense. What was in the bloody T-shirt? What was with the dude standing in the corner? That's all explained, folks. It's all explained. And I mean, there's been fucking what, 4 sequels now, and I'm not talking about sequels after each other. 4 Blair Witch 2s after this film. So you should know your shit by now. So what I love about this film is that what makes it so creepy is the psychological aspect. It's not the fact that the witch herself is scary. It's not that we are there's no jump scare of a witch. It's the fact that there's this urban legend, which is why we don't see the witch. It's this urban legend that these college students are going on a journey to find. And what I love about this film is at the beginning they're documenting all these locals, and what I love is that they're not trying to make it scary. There's this one crazy bitch that they end up interviewing, and she's clearly kind of insane, but she describes of an incident when she was a little girl and she saw the witch, and she's very just kind of funky looking of a woman, and after they interview her, You can see them driving in the car, and they're talking to each other. And they're like, oh yeah, she also said that she's like a scientist, and that she like studies, like teaches history, or all this shit, all this crazy shit, and it makes like the viewer think like, okay, well that part bitch is probably insane. There's also like instances where they're filming this one man, this one local, and he's very short sentenced. They're like, so you don't believe in the witch? He's like, nope. They're like, so you're a religious man? He's like, yep. And the interviewer Heather, she's like, all right then, and it just cuts like to another person. So that stuff, like, in like I feel like that's what people think is boring about the movie. They're like, it's a found footage film, and there's no witch, and nothing scary exactly happens. It's all in the head. What it is that's such a great build-up. It's the fact that it's local, and the fact that, not everyone is saying these big, scary, spooky campfire stories, is what makes it so that you really want to know what is actually out there in the woods. What I love about this film is, while you don't see the witch, you clearly know that there is something fucked going on in these woods. There's scenes where, overnight you'll hear like, they're the only ones out there in these woods. And you like, there's these scenes where overnight, you'll hear like kids crying, and it goes like you'll hear kids crying because of the found footage style, and because it's at nighttime, they'll be like looking for these noises, and then you'll hear one of the characters scream, "What the fuck is that?" And like the camera will like quickly go in that area, and then it'll film her running. It's like, it makes you want to rewind the movie and pause and be like, the fuck she see? What I mean on a psychological level is, you have to use your imagination in order for this film to work. You have to put yourselves in their shoes. They're walking around in the woods. They're going in circles. They're probably thirsty. They're probably hungry. What, they got work in the morning. It's the fucking woods. And on top of it, one of the characters kicks the fucking map in the creek, which I understand would be kind of funny. Shitty fucking playoff though. With that going on, it's, I get it. There's nothing really scary about that, but in that position, if you put yourselves in their shoes and you actually believe that there was a witch out in these woods, and you're stuck in these woods and you've been out there for days, and you don't have food, water, you got work in the morning, you have no fucking map, and then these things actually started happening, then yeah, it's fuck that shit. And what I love about this film is that I have a lot of anxiety about, getting lost and everything. So with the woods aspect, I mean, everybody knows that, you don't want to go into a woods alone, because fuck, that shit's nuts. And these people go into the woods, they have the map and everything. One of the dudes kicks it into the fucking creek. They end up getting stuck out there. They start hearing shit overnight. They wake up in the morning, one of the dudes is missing. They find his teeth and a goddamn tongue in a fucking piece of his flannel, my boy. Bloodied, all covered with sticks. The other two were both sleeping in the tent. We don't see the witch, but we know something's at play here. What I love about this film is that, although you don't see any creatures, you don't see anything that's really terrifying, the idea of it, the shit that runs through your mind, the performance that the characters bring, the anxiety, the dread, the loneliness, the isolation, that just, it creeps under your skin, and there's no way to ignore it if you really, again, put yourselves in these viewers' shoes. And there's, what I love about this horror film, and horror films in general, is the ones that really make you think, the ones that really have a reason to have theories behind them, like The Shining, for example. With the Blair Witch, for a long time people were like, well, what was in that thing? And I'm like, dude's dead, obviously, but there's people that are like, was it teeth? Was it his tongue? Was it any of that? Was it bones? There's things, because it's a found footage film, and because of the low production value, there's only so much that you can take in with a camera from college students with no budget. And same thing goes for the end of the movie. With the guy standing in the corner, people are like, I don't get it. Was he dead? Was that the witch? I'm like, bruh. They say at the beginning, one of them goes in the witch would lure victims, one in the corner, while she kills the other. So at the end, the camera falls to the ground. She sees the dude in the corner, Mike, I think it was. The witch is there in the woods. So again, while we don't see the witch, we don't see what happens at the very end to Heather, and we don't know what happened to the other dude that went missing. We found his fucking teeth in the flannel. There's so much that we can use with our imagination to get theories and also to make the experience even more terrifying. I think that this honestly is one of the best found footage films out there, or at least one that I've reviewed anyway. This is a solid found footage horror film, and I am totally on the side of this film, earning the cult following that it does. This has made me want to do so much research and, really follow the story, and I think that this is just one of those found footage horror films that is just kind of timeless. I'm giving the Blair Witch Project a 7. Well, now the exciting part to probably a lot of people, the Blair Witch video game. It released on Xbox and PS4, I believe, last year. It's from Bloober. They did one video game that I actually played, Layers of Fear. Completed it. Took me like an hour. The atmosphere was great. Scares, they were great. They weren't there all the time, but they were great when they were there. I appreciate Bloober. I was excited about this game. I consider myself a fan of Blair Witch, and I didn't have an Xbox, and I had just gotten rid of my PS4 because I got a Switch, and I couldn't play this game. Until today, that is. The game officially released on Switch today, and I bought that shit at midnight. I played it and completed it today. Never have I ever completed a game and bought it the same day that it came out and dropped a review on the same day for that matter. This game, let's get into it. So this is the, I believe, third or fourth Blair Witch 2 story out there. We've gotten the Book of Shadows. We've gotten the Blair Witch film that came out, I believe, in 2016. We've gotten some other video games back in the early 2000s. Here we are with Bloober's take on it. This game is very interesting. It starts very quickly. You play as a man named Ellis with his doggy bullet. Love beat a bullet. And they're searching for a 9-year-old named Peter. And they are very... So this is, I believe, meant to be a direct sequel to the Blair Witch Project movie. They talk about, some occurrences that happened back in 1994. The end of the game is incredible. We see the house. That's all I'm going to say. That's spoiler alert. You see the house, and it's very much worth the wait. But this is a very, I'm not going to say short game because it did take me personally like 3-4 hours to complete it. But there is a lot of walking around, you can imagine. A lot of walking around. And it's, yeah, you got a camcorder, you got a dog, you got a flashlight, and you're in the woods, boy. Blair Witch. Although it is a very short game, all in all, the amount of gameplay and the amount of atmosphere and environment, as well as storytelling thrown into the game, make it for a solid walkthrough. And although I won't say that the game was all that scary, I did think that the atmosphere as well as the gameplay were very cool, especially for a Blair Witch game. Which is funny because about halfway through this game I was like, so I'm respecting what it's doing, but I just don't see it being a Blair Witch game. Maybe if this was its own thing, I'd, be more into it, but as a Blair Witch fan and as, connection to the story, you best believe I played this damn thing through beginning to end. And there's things about the game that are great and things about the game that I'm just like, so when are we going to get the sequel, right, fellas? When are we going to get a number 2? That's good. I mean, seriously, this is a 4th try now, I believe, and it's like, it's not bad. One thing I like about the game is that it focuses heavily on the psychological aspect, the mentality and everything. For example, if your dog runs away, you actually get that anxiety in the atmosphere. You start having blurred vision, you start having heavy breathing, the surroundings start looking all distorted and shit. I like that. you know, you're stuck in the woods. I get it. You're the only one out there. Very fucked up situation while you're out there, and you know, without your dog, you know, what you gonna do? And I get that. I think that it's very dependent on, you know, touching on themes internally, which I thought was a perfect way of making this game out to be. The only thing I didn't really like per se is the fact that it was very cliche when it got to the nighttime. For example, I was playing this game and I was like, all this shit's gonna happen at night. All this shit's gonna happen at night. That's gonna be when the scary comes in. To a limit that wasn't even necessary. Like having like so you can see these creatures coming out of the trees and shit, and apparently the only way to, like, I guess, attack them is, you know, if you're shining a flashlight on them and your dog's with you. And I'm like, one, I don't want to see no creatures in this game. I like the imagination aspect, and I like the roots of the Blair Witch Project, which I think is why we've had 4 failed sequels, because that's where it needed to be. Definitely the best sequel we've gotten so far to Blair Witch Project, but I just didn't think that it was necessary to throw in monsters and, you know, try all this crazy layers of fear, Silent Hill bullshit. I mean, you're stuck in the woods and you're, you know, nervous. That and the story, I don't think that it was all that impressive, but I think, you know, I respected it for not going over its limit, and I respect the fact that it was somewhere near the quality of the Blair Witch Project. Probably up until the 3rd act, which I know this is gonna sound a little sluggish, but the game was very just kind of, you know, alright. Okay. We're stuck in the woods. Let's keep looking, bullet. And then you know, hit the third act and you get to that house and you're like, okay. 3rd act is incredible. What I like about the story is that it totally takes a turn in what it's, you know, playing out to be. I do think that there are a lot of holes in the story, and I think that the story could have been much more put together. But, you know, if we get a sequel to this game, I wouldn't mind, you know? I wouldn't mind. Hopefully, you know, assuming that we actually get this Blair Witch story untangled finally and straightened out into a close. But definitely as a Blair Witch video game, and you know, coming from Bloober's take on it, you know, I feel like for the most part, you know, didn't get the job done, but, you know, I feel ya. I'm feeling a solid 5.2 out of 10. Just above average. Could have been much better, but, you know, not bad. And there we have it, guys. Game review. Wow. I mean, hugs and kisses. Kind of good throwback review. Yeah. More videos coming soon. My birthday is in like a week, so I have a, you know, special review I've been saving for that. Got a couple countdown videos coming. Pragmatophobia update coming soon.